All right, welcome guys to another video. This video is going to be about Colorado Buffaloes, right? And there's some positive news to unveil to you guys. I know a lot of the times people think that I'm negative toward Colorado football and Coach Prime, but I'm not. I like to hear good things about the program. But if I do see things that don't look good to me, I think I'm well within my own rights to speak out against it. Again, I told you guys that you only critique something that you have passion for. All right. I'm not out here critiquing women's clothing because I don't wear women's clothing. I wear men's clothing. So I don't critique what women do. I critique what men do. I critique the things that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about sports. And in this particular juncture in my life, seeing Coach Prime leave the HBCU with his son, bringing his son to the Power Five conference level, with the hopes of seeing his son probably win the Heisman. All those possible narratives and storylines drew me in. It reeled me in, to be quite honest with you. And that's why I'm a fan. I want to see how this is all going to turn out. And it's been sort of, addictive in the sense that no matter how much I try to stay away from Colorado football, I find myself going back to it because I do want to see how things are going to develop. I think a little bit of conflict and a little bit of a challenge goes a long way in terms of having people put more of their eyes on Colorado football. I believe that the first season was a huge challenge. There were some successes, there were some highlights, there were points where we could point our fingers at and say, okay, these were the highlights of the season. These were the positive things we can take from the season. But in that same breath, and in that same token, you could also say there are a lot of things that they could learn from, things that didn't go so well. But I think that dichotomy of the good and the bad and the positive and the negative, within the time of a football season, I think those things attribute to helping any program, move forward and evolve into a better product. And like I said before in my previous video, I really hope that the things that happened last year are a huge, lesson learner for Coach Prime and in the way he goes about conducting business. I'm sure in his heart of hearts, he wouldn't say this publicly because people have to save face and pride. We all have it. And no one wants to ever seem as if they've made a mistake. They like to just say things like, God doesn't make mistakes. No matter what happens, I'm still good. They like to just overgeneralize the details that are not so good in their lives, always pointing to the grand goal. But if you overlook those little small details, there's no need to focus on the goal because the goal's never going to come. Smart people and smart leaders don't marginalize the details in their program or in whatever avenue that they're leading, whatever enterprise that they're leading, whether it's in the free market, whether it's in the corporate America, the free market economy, whatever it is. There's little small details, they go a long way. And I really truly believe that what Colorado went through the first season with Coach Prime is a huge learning lesson for everybody, both the coaches, the fans too, and the players. So it's sort of like a boxer, like in those Rocky movies when Sylvester Stallone takes a huge beating in the early rounds, and then he finds a way to come back in the later rounds. I hope that's the trajectory of Colorado football, that the latter is better than the previous. And I'm hoping that next football season is better in the win-loss column, but also in the way the team is conducted, also in the way the team is playing complementary football, also in the way the team is minimalizing their mistakes, penalties, not getting beat on blown coverages, not giving up the big chunk yards. That's what I want to see. I want to see incremental progress, something that I can see that's going to lend me to believe that it could be something that's sustainable in the long haul. So the recent update with Colorado update is that the football, this is an update from Buff Zone. It says the pieces in place for a Colorado football team to have a strong rushing attack is in place. And I've always said this, even in the first season, they just didn't commit to the run. Many of you guys would say they couldn't run. Well, they weren't passing that well either. Yeah, Shador had a couple of games where he blew up and threw for over 300 yards, but overall, there were many games where most of his yards came late in garbage time. The passing attack wasn't that great either because they were predictable. The only way you can have the defense, placing the defense in an honest position, is to give them the dose of the run continually, even if it's not successful earlier. I believe that Colorado football had enough backs, big backs, to pound the defense. I believe that the offensive line of last year's Colorado football team were better run blockers. I've said this hundreds of times on my channel. Run blocking and pass blocking are two different things. Pass blocking requires a little bit more skill and technique, whereas run blocking is just brute strength. It's just pushing your man back and using your brute force. And I believe that the offensive line were better run blockers than pass blockers. It's just that Coach Prime's agenda to elevate his son in the Power 5 conference was far more appealing to him than placing his team in the best position to win. And the best position to win was to devise an offense that built upon your personnel's strengths. It's not so much of you coming in with your philosophy and force feeding your son to be passing the ball on every down. You have to look at your personnel and see what they're good at and adjust your philosophy towards your personnel. Coach Prime, you haven't been there that long to get the type of players you need in order to have the type of offense you want. You came there in 1 year, you had a bunch of transfer players, and you brought some players from HBCU. But that's not enough. You didn't have the overall personnel to have that air raid attack and have the success that comes with it because your offensive line was not equipped to be that great of a pass blocking of an elite pass blocking team. You just didn't have that. So this year, the pieces are in place for Colorado football to have a strong rushing attack. I'm going to read this article to you guys. It says, throughout the 2023 football season, the Colorado Buffaloes struggled to run the football. Again, when you read that statement, that's misleading. They chose not to run the football. If you look at the statistics, the stats don't say that. That's why I believe that most of these writers don't do their research. If you literally go and look at the statistics, Colorado they averaged about almost 4 yards a carry per run. But it's hard to have a large total of rushing yards when you don't attempt that many rushing plays. So then at the end of the game, when you only have about 40 yards rushing, it makes it seem as if, oh, you guys can't run the ball. No, they can run the ball. They made the choice not to run the ball. So that's a little bit misleading. It wasn't like they were trying to just hammer the ball down the middle and run. It's just they would give up on it. If a running back attempted to run the ball and got 0 yards or 1 yard, they would just chalk that up to, oh, it's not working. And then they go back to resorting back to the usual, the attempting to pass the ball on every down. So therefore, that would create quick 3 and outs. That would end up putting the defense back on the field. Then the defense gets torched again because the defense is not getting enough time to rest. So you can see how the offensive ineptitude of Colorado played into the entire team's dynamic. When you have an inept offense and a putrid offense, that offense actually impacts the defense because the defense doesn't have time to rest because you're going out there with quick 3 and outs and your defense has to come right back on the football field to defend. And many times the defense were giving up long drives. You know, sometimes they would give up the big chunk play for a touchdown, but they're tired. So in order to kill clock, manage the time, keep your defense off the field so they can get some rest, you have to make a intentional effort to actually run the ball. All right. So this idea that the Colorado Buffaloes struggle to run the football is not that they struggle to run the football. They just struggle to commit to running the football. So they should rephrase that first sentence. All right. The article goes on to say the Buffaloes finished last among the 133 football bowl subdivision teams in rushing yards per game with 68.9. That's true. And yards per carry with 2.31. But that yards per carry is a little bit misleading because it's not 2.31 yards per carry. It's more than that. They are factoring in the rushing yards of Shedeur. There were plenty of times Shedeur would go back to pass the ball and hold the ball too long and get sacked and lose yards. And the rushing plays and some of the runs that they would have that they considered to be rushing plays were undesigned scrambles from Shedeur. So they would count that as rushing yards. Take away the running attempts of Shedeur because he's not a running quarterback. Now he can scamper around and he can be a little bit elusive to gain extra yards, but they never really had designed run plays for Shedeur. I'm not factoring in Shedeur's rushing attempts or loss of yards when he's scrambling and getting sacked and losing yards. Let's take that out of the equation. Let's just focus on the running game with the running backs. The people that are designed to run the football. They averaged about 4 yards a pop. And that's not bad if you commit to running the football with your running backs. But because you put Shedeur underneath the gun so many times, he didn't have enough time to throw the ball. Then a lot of the times he would run and scramble for about 5, 6, 7 yards. But then there will be other times when he would scramble and lose 5, 6, or 7 yards, which attributed to their yards per carry being shortened to 2.31. But it's actually more than that if you just focus on the running backs. So you can't call Shedeur's scrambles a part of the running game. That's not part of the running game. I don't believe Coach Prime wants to put his son in harm's way. His son is not a running quarterback. He's not a running quarterback at all. All right, reading along, going into 2024, however, there are some different variables in play for the Buffs who will aim to be much better on the ground. And I hope so. Now, it's one thing to aim at something, but you have to hit your target. If you're aiming to be better on the ground, you better make a full-blown commitment to running the football. The passing yards are going to come. Trust me. Shedeur doesn't have to throw for 600 yards. Trust me, if you have a well-established running game, Shedeur could pass for about 300-plus yards a game and have about 3 touchdowns because the defense has to commit to stopping the run. And that leaves the explosive plays for Travis Hunter and the other receivers to blow the top off the defense. But when you become predictable, the defense can kind of sit back and relax and say, okay, we know we can get to your quarterback with the 4 D linemen that we have. No need to put extra people in the box. We'll play it safe and keep all the receivers in front of us. Good luck, Shedeur, with throwing the ball to your receivers because you're not going to have enough time. You're going to have about 2.5 seconds, and once that's gone, you're going to hit the floor. But that's when you become predictable. But when you're not predictable, the defense cannot conjure up a defensive scheme like that to stop you. So you have to keep the defense guessing. And that guessing means incorporating a competent running game, mixing in with the pass. You have to mix it up. You can't be too predictable. Reading along, it says, quote, I just hope that we have a consistent run game that people can respect and know that we put it on the ground with anyone, junior running back Alton McCaskill said in a recent YouTube video on his channel. Yeah, I agree. They could run the ball with anybody. I felt like they could do that last year. They just didn't commit to it. McCaskill is confident in Colorado University's run game for various reasons, including his own health. But the Buffs are also different in the trenches and have a new coordinator leading the offense. Pat Schumer, who took over play calling duties with about 4 games left to play last season, is now the full-time offensive coordinator. A longtime NFL head coach and coordinator, Schumer installing his style of offense this offseason, and McCaskill likes what he sees. So that's good. If the running back is happy about the scheme, then that means that they are. I mean, that's what they're saying now on paper. We'll see when the season unfolds if what they're saying on paper is going to match what we see on the football field. Because if you're putting in an offensive scheme that the running back likes, that's a match made in heaven right there. Because if the running back likes it, that's going to be hell to pay for the opposing defenses. Because McCaskill is a monster. He's a beast. So if he likes it, there's going to be a little bit of extra sauce that's put into the runs because he enjoys it. It's one thing to run the ball into a scheme that you don't really enjoy, but you just have to run because that's the play that's called for you. But it's one thing to enjoy it, to like the scheme. So when a player and coach are both working together and the scheme works to meet and match your player personnel like Alton McCaskill, That's a match made in heaven. So that's a good sign if you're a Colorado fan. And I hope that type of production, the positive production, actually we actually see it unfold on the football field. Quote, he says, I can tell you our running game is a little bit more diverse than what it was last year for sure. That's what McCaskill said. We have a variety of run plays now. Our passing concepts are a little bit different as well too. McCaskill added that he enjoyed playing for Pat Schumer so far. That's a good thing. All right, reading along. I think he has a real pro mindset, and that's where he sees everyone, he said. I think he's going to be really big on like personnel and calling plays for people specifically and knowing who's in and working with those people for specific plays. That's good. Colorado University has held back last year by struggling offensive line. Again, they're going to blame everything on the offensive line, but it's not. Even if you have a bad offensive line, you can still work your way around it. Passing the ball on every down is not the way to do it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's last year. Let's move forward. Colorado University was held back last year by a struggling offensive line as well. The Buffs were pushed around in the trenches that contributed to a run game never really getting on track. I'm not even going to get on that again. I'm going to get off my soapbox with that, but I told you why the run game didn't work. They didn't commit to it. Colorado University had more than 91 rushing yards in only 2 games last season, while finishing with less than 60 7 times. Head coach Deion Sanders has landed 5 transfer linemen, all with FBS starting experience this offseason, in addition to signing tackle Jordan Seaton, the #1 prep line recruit in the country, and Tyler Brown, who had to sit out last season after transferring, is back. Though that's great news. Everybody knew Tyler Brown was a beast and he could not play. So having him and Seaton and the other new guys that they brought in, I do agree that the offensive line is better. You're better. Okay? Better run blockers for sure. McCaskill said there's already a significant difference in that group. He says work ethic, mindset, that's literally the difference, he said. You see it. You can feel it. It's contagious. End quote. On top of all that, the running back room is filled with talent, and it starts with McCaskill. Nearly a 1,000-yard rusher at Houston in 2021, McCaskill hasn't played much in the last 2 years because of injuries. But he wasn't injured last year. But anyway, let me stop. He wasn't injured. The mom even said he was fine last year. That's just an excuse of not playing him. Anyway, but he's feeling good now and has 1,000-yard potential with the Buffs. Dylan Edwards led the Buffs in rushing last season as a freshman, but had just 321 yards. He's bigger and stronger already this offseason while working on his speed as he runs with the track team. Well, that's good. If he's working on his size, that's great. That's great. Because I never really thought he was big enough to run through the tackles, but they kept on doing that. To me, he's more of a wideout. Maybe like in the slot or something like that. He should be in the slot. Like running through the trenches is not for him. Because immediately he touched the defensive lineman, it was like glue. He just stuck and then he went down. He didn't have the girth or the power to run through those tackles. But he's very fast though. And working with the track team and working on getting more muscle and getting more weight will be good. I just hope it doesn't really impact his speed, but obviously he knows what he's doing. He's training, he's working with the track team, so obviously he wants to maintain that speed. All right, reading along here. Sivion Wilkerson didn't get a lot of work last year. He had 53 carries for 190 yards, but was a 1,000-yard rusher for Sanders' Jackson State squad in 2022 and has the versatility to be a threat in various running situations. Greedy walk-on Charlie Offerdahl is also back after injury cut short his 2023 season. Then there is a true freshman, Micah Welch, who wasn't a blue chip recruit, but has impressed his teammates so far. Micah is a dog. He's a dog, McCaskill said. You're going to see a lot of Micah, and I'm excited to watch him just progress as he gets older. He's already super mature, so he's getting the mental part already. He has extreme potential. That's what McCaskill says. The run game in general has good potential, with the pieces in place to be more impactful than what it was a season ago. So this is good news. This is good news. We'll see if it materializes on the football field. But as I said before, the key to having any success as a football team is having some type of rushing attack, whether it's a running game with the quarterback. If you have a running quarterback, Alabama was great at that. They didn't utilize their running backs a lot, but they utilized their quarterback to get those rushing yards. Shedeur is not a running quarterback, so you're going to have to establish some kind of threat. Even if you don't even necessarily even have to have 100 yards a game rushing, but if the defense knows that you can blow the top off the defense with your running game, then they're gonna be more committed to stopping that run. And we know what Shedeur can do with the arm and slinging the ball. So we'll see how it goes next football season. But I do want to see a committed effort by Colorado University to run the ball more. Leave a comment. Tell me what you guys think about the article that I just read, and do you actually think that the offensive scheme and the offensive philosophy will change? Me, I'm still 50-50 about it. I mean, before I was more like 70, yes, it's going to remain the same. 30, no. 30, no, it's not going to remain this. I mean, 70% of my thinking was leaning towards, yes, it's going to remain the same. And 30% was saying no, that it's not going to remain the same. But as I'm reading more articles and seeing how the offensive line is trying to be developed for the run, I'm sort of now 50-50. But I also know that coach, daddy ball concept, that may tend to overwhelm the team, where Coach Prime is like, put the ball in my son's hand. I want to see my son shine. It's yet to be seen. But we'll see how it goes next football season. But right now, it's more like 60-40, 50-50. Leaning more to the side of that it may stay the same. But I have been sort of like changing my mind, thinking that maybe Colorado will commit more to the run. When I say commit more to the run, I'm not saying that I want them to be a running team. I just want them to be a good team. Look at the defense. Look at the way the defense is playing against you. Because you have a dual threat in terms of the offensive side of the ball, you're able to throw and run. That's if you commit to the run. You can adapt your offense to challenge what the defense is throwing at you. So if the defense says, "Fine, we're gonna let Shedeur throw all day," then let Shedeur eat you up. If it's eating you up and you have to now put more linemen in to stop to rush him, to sack him, then what does that do? He can still throw the quick pass to his fast receivers, and boom, they could take it to the house. I just want them to be able, and then if the defense has like a base defense where they're just playing a base defense, then you can just run the ball down their throats. Keep their offense off the field. Keep their defense on the field to keep them tired and wear them out. So to me, what makes a good football team is not you calling yourself a running team or a passing team. What makes you a good football team is just being a complete team, being able to adapt to whatever defense throws at you. That's the point that I'm trying to make with that. All right, so tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment. All right, thank you guys for listening. To the next time. All right.